This is the Canon EOS R7. It's an APS-C 32.5 megapixel camera and can also shoot up to 4K 60 uncropped. While the camera itself already has a 1.6 times crop factor, there is no further cropping on top of that to shoot at 4K 60. I bought this camera almost a year ago as an upgrade to my Canon EOS Rebel T7, a 24 megapixel camera that has held up pretty good and can be called a goated starter camera for those who want to dip their dogs into photography. Since then, the R7 has been my main camera, and I can promptly tell you that this camera is definitely worth the money and a solid next camera to consider buying. But also, Canon has also released two other cameras that can rival the humble R7. The first being the R6 Mark II, a successor to an already great hybrid camera by adding a few new features like 24 megapixels and unlimited recording, which was also introduced with the R7. And they also added 6K raw external recording to the R6 Mark II. The next camera introduced was the Canon R8, a camera priced below the R7 at $1,700 with its kit lens, whereas the R7 is $1,800 with its kit lens. Oh yeah, and the R8 is a full frame censored camera compared to the R7's crop censored camera. So you might be asking, why didn't I get the R8 or just saved up for the R6 Mark II? Well, because I just didn't know that Canon was going to be releasing these cameras. And I pretty much bought the R7 impulsively. But there are things that the R7 has that the R8 doesn't have. Having IBIS, or in-body image stabilization, helps when I'm shooting handheld. A bigger battery using the LPE6NH instead of the smaller LPE17, which looks similar or could be interchangeable with the LPE10 battery of the T7. Just don't quote me on that if it's not true. Back to the R7 though. Throughout the past year, shooting with this camera has been great. Just try to stay away from low light scenarios, unless you have an incredibly fast lens, like 1.4 or 1.2 if possible, or have ample enough light for your subject. I learned this the hard way when I shot my first Camaro Maniacs car meet in a dark scenario. I had to shoot with my ISO super high, or with my shutter speed super low, or a combination of two, which made pictures really blurry, grain was insane, and pictures were just not all that good, and members weren't all that happy with how the pictures came up. Now, it's not totally impossible to shoot in low light situations. Like I said before, you'll need a good fast lens and good lighting. I would also recommend using a tripod to help keep your shot steady. Here are a few examples. When shooting during the day, you will have no problem having to nail your settings, and you will also be greatly helped by how fast the autofocus is. The R7 has 3 autofocus detection modes: people detection, animal detection, and vehicle detection. I shoot more cars compared to people and animals, and I can count on the camera's vehicle tracking to keep locked on cars, whether I'm doing rollers or whether they're just sitting pretty at meets and shows. People and animal detection would also be just as good. The R7's video capabilities are what make it a beast, with it shooting up to 4K 60, as I mentioned at the beginning. When shooting at regular 4K, you can switch over to 4K Fine, which is oversampled 7K data to get crispier image quality. The R7 also provides its user with log recording in the form of C-Log3. I would say I have used it before, but never fully nailed exposure and correct grading in post, so we'll just chalk that up to user error. As for the lens choices for the R7, you can use the full lineup of current Canon RF mount lenses. You can also use Canon's older EF lens mount, but you'll need the help of an EF to RF lens adapter. My collection of lenses so far include the 18 to 150mm kit lens, the goated 50mm f1.8 lens and the 85 f2 macro lens. All lenses have their uses, but ever since I've bought that nifty 50, I've just been sticking to it as my go-to lens. The 85 and kit lenses also have their uses. Depending on the situation, I may want to be close and have a wide enough view of the car, or want to be further back with some nice compression of the background. To go ahead and round off my review, the R7 is a great mid-budget type of camera that is also great in all sorts of situations, but is somewhat impeded in low light situations due to its cropped sensor. It has great and fast autofocus with 3 different subjects to detect, great video recording capabilities with the option to shoot in log formats, and can use Canon's current RF lenses and older EF lenses. All there is left for you is to choose what kind of scenarios you'll realistically be shooting in and decide what kind of gear best fits that bill. For me, the R7 has been that and has been totally reliable. Thank you. Please like and subscribe, and let's have a chat about it in the comments. Take care.